What's going on, y'all? It's Greg. Greg said it. Back with inspiration, motivation. Second of the day, as usual, on Sunday. We had a nice live today. Shout out to everybody who was there. It was a little quick. We're changing the format up. We're doing about 30 minutes or so. Not staying a full hour during the off season. Kind of switching up a little bit. So, yeah, a little minute. Make sure y'all check in. Stop by next Sunday. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, so you can get, at least hopefully get a notification. You know how YouTube do. But we was kind of talking about, what really made Colorado what it is and what's going to make it what it is going forward. And we kind of talked about how things would look in the future based off of the foundation that's been built. And we're seeing how some of the guys we kind of wanted to see get drafted is starting to come to light. Some of the things that we were concerned about with injuries and the looks and some of the, you don't know what the NFL is looking for when it comes to size and different things that they kind of factor in. And we knew that Will Shepherd would be good with his background from SEC and his size and everything. But it's good to see LeJounte get invited to the combine. Jimmy got his invite. And the other big dogs, they can go. They don't have to participate. But it's a good thing to see some of those smaller guys who really talented, really quick, really fast, really what they call like a Swiss Army knife type guys. They can be good on special teams. They can be good with a lot of different components of the game. And it's a matchup nightmare. Their routes are good, their speed, their quickness is good. Really perfect for the NFL for some of these programs who really live off of that type of talent. And it was a surprise to a lot of people that, rumored that the Steelers, amongst maybe a few teams, told Jimmy, hey, you don't need to play. We good. And he didn't have to play in the Shriners Bowl game. And that's a good sign. I mean, ahead of the combine, the pressure's off, that we can pretty much count another draft pick. We can pretty much count it. It was kind of easing towards late rounds, and you say, oh, he get in. If worst case, it'd be like his boy last year. He'll get, maybe an invite to count. And I believe Weaver would have been in a better situation if he wasn't injured. He could have participated in any of this off-season stuff because of his shoulder situation. I believe he even had to have surgery. All the way up to the pro day, he barely got in. He went to the combine, he could participate. Weaver would have been drafted, but they say it worked out maybe in his favor. He could kind of select where he wanted to go or whatever as a free agent if it was one of those late round picks. But Weaver could have been in a similar situation because he was very productive. And when you get him on the field, you really get to see what he do. And that's how he made that team. That's how he made Arizona team. But when you think about it, Colorado is setting a standard where everybody's talking about everything. They're setting a standard where you really look at what they've done. Weaver was one of the first. They had a couple guys make some practice squads and stuff like that. Then you look at what's going on. You have 2 first round, very, very high picks, first few picks this year from the same team. And then you have people like Jimmy coming in. You got Will Shepherd on the back end to get drafted. Wester should get drafted. And then you have a host of maybe B.J. Green later. You got several guys, like we said, and it could have been more. Maybe they'd have won more, but you got several other guys that could going to make a team or going to get an invite, like a Shadoze and some of the other guys, right? And you look at what's going on this next year. When you look at Salter coming over his senior year, and he's looking at possibly kind of increasing his stock, get some more eyeballs, get some more respect for that talent and whatever the situation he's in. And he's going to do well. And you got some other receivers coming out. So you really look at the next few years, what Colorado can put out as far as NFL draft picks. The consistency will kick in first, second, third, fourth year. Because you got that class with Jordan Seaton. You have that class where Hood is coming up. DJ McKinney. You have those guys coming up. You have some of those guys like McCoy. You have a lot of those edge rushers, those younger guys that did really well. Their time is coming. Okinola. You have you name it. Some of the guys that's still developing. But over the next couple of years, it's going to be a lot of guys off that defense. What would that look like? You know, when you look at Georgia, they're known for putting multiple guys in the league, and they end up playing on the same team, like the Eagles. They got like several guys from Georgia. What happens when Colorado put a consistent amount of guys out there where it's not a year where nobody gets drafted or doesn't have a chance to make a roster, and several guys a year for the next 3, 4, 5 years in a row? And this, you know, you have 30 guys out there from Coach Prime era, Colorado. You know, Colorado had some guys, a few guys before recently, but Coach Prime put 20, 30 guys in the league. Eventually, some of those guys are going to be on the same team. Eventually, it's going to be some Colorado guys on the Super Bowl team. And making the All-Star, All-Pro, that starts to accumulate over the next 2 to 3 years. Those young receivers, you look at Miller coming out. Let's say he get drafted if he has a good year right here in the next year or so, whatever. And then you have some of those young linemen that coming in behind Seaton, following that trend. It's going to be a good thing where I expect to see at least 4 to 5 guys over the next few years each year come out. If not this year, definitely the next couple years after that. But one thing is for sure, they're going to be putting guys in the NFL every year. And everybody can't say that. We know that there's some good programs, decent programs where they have gaps. I don't see Colorado having gaps over the next 3, 4, 5 years, especially with Coach Prime there, where these next few classes, these guys coming in now, the guys who came in last year, putting out guys in addition to what's already really starting this year. A nice chunk of guys going to go in this year, and it's going to be a sight to see. And I think that's when Coach Prime will see the fruits of his labor. And you know, you're talking about daddy ball and all the big talk about the NFL versus the NIL. You finally gonna get to see that he lived up to what he said. It's a beautiful thing when somebody says they're gonna do something, they do it, especially when people doubt them and the press and all that get behind it. At the end of the day, you're gonna look like the fool, because I don't think he don't have the intention not to follow through. And I think people didn't really respect that. But if you look at what's going on this year, this is just the beginning. It's going to be really interesting, especially when they start getting these titles. I believe this year that they could be a strong contender for the Big 12. Yeah, BYU is going to be coming back strong. I don't know how strong Arizona's coming back with them. I'm sure they'll be decent. People going to be looking for them and respecting them, not looking over them this year. Iowa State, I don't know how much they're bringing back, but I believe a lot of those same teams are going to be bringing a lot of people back. I don't know what Utah, how they're going to recover. They're going to do a lot of recruiting. Kansas State, I think their running back is gone. They should have a pretty decent team. People going to have to respect the Big 12 eventually. I mean, they had a very strong run towards the end. One of them went to the playoff and competed against Texas. At some point, you're going to have to stop treating them with disrespect, like they can't beat nobody, because they all did pretty well. When you look at in some of the non-conference games in the beginning of the season, they did well against other conferences. I mean, I think even Oklahoma State, was it early? Got into it, beat, was it Oklahoma State? I think Oklahoma State beat Arkansas. And Oklahoma State didn't do a bunch of nothing. And then you seen Tulane, they probably loyalty, but Kansas State was able to beat them, pull that off. So you seen what they are able to do outside of the conference. You seen how competitive they are in the playoff. And maybe at some point you will respect the dog fights that they're going to have in conference without trying to just write them all off like, oh, y'all no good because they're just a weak conference. It's going to be a competitive conference. It's going to be one of the most competitive conferences all the way around. It's turned out to be that than even the SEC. You know, it's not going to be that, you know, these teams way up here and everybody just here. And it's not because nobody's not good. It's just that they're competitive. They're well-rounded teams. This was our first year kind of seeing it, but they usually have a dual-threat quarterback who can run that ball and can throw decent. They had to give some props to some of them. Oh, they can't throw. They can throw decent. They usually have pretty good big-size running backs like Texas, Cincinnati, Texas Tech. You look at, they have some big tight ends. Most of them have some big tight ends, and they usually have some pretty nice-sized offensive line. Well, you can't really play with them like that. It's disrespectful to act like they don't have the size to compete, because they really do. They really do. And I really believe Arizona State proved that when they kind of stood up against Texas. And people are like, oh, that's supposed to just been a blowout. They really about could have won. And what that would have been a problem, right? The key is they competed. They put some people on notice. So hopefully, just maybe, if it's close again, maybe they respect the conference enough to get a couple teams in there like they did with others. Don't just send one if it's close again. Get a couple teams. You want to send 4, 5 SEC, but you only want to send one out of Big 12. That's got to end. And they keep playing the way they do and keep competing. Just maybe we'll get at least a couple teams out. And hopefully, one of them is Colorado. But we shall see. Got a long way. Like I said last year, no need to rush. It's already moved, already in February. We already know what it is. I'm Greg, what Greg said it. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll be talking to y'all soon.